Okay, greetings and welcome everybody. Thank you for joining the Sickle Cell Care Advocacy Unity Support with Empathy Group, otherwise known as the Sickle Cell Cause or SC Cause. All right. Today we are recording our January 2021 edition to our information video library of our table talk, and our discussion today is blood donation. Okay, before I go any further, I'll just share my screen. Bear with me, and I'll just turn off my camera. That's better. And to begin with, I'll just speak a little bit about who we are. Okay, so here we go. Right, so my name is Samantha Greaves, otherwise known as Warrior Queen. I am the founder and group coordinator for this community voluntary organization. We host an array of workshops throughout the month, and we also do many video recordings to help keep our community informed and involved. As I said, we are a community-based organisation, and we are run by volunteers from the sickle cell community. We have volunteers that are sickle cell affected with the actual condition, as well as people that support those affected by the condition, as well as supporters, people that just come to support us. Nobody is paid. We are all volunteers, and everybody gives of their time and their skills and their talent quite freely. We also have to ask our community, as we are a community-based grassroots organisation, what is it that you can do to help us? All right, the first thing we say is, if you're able to, and it doesn't affect any religious or health issues with yourself, please donate blood. If you would take blood, please donate blood. Also, get tested to see if you carry the sickle cell gene. You can call the George Marsh Sickle Cell Centre based at St Anne's Hospital on 0208 442 6230. Also, you can contact your GP to find out if you have the gene by booking in a simple blood test. Right? We say to be informed is to be forewarned. Whatever information you come back with, at least you have a choice to do something about it, even if it's just education. We're always looking for volunteers. We've got so much work to do, and during these times, our workload has increased greatly. So if you have a few hours a month, please donate it to the Sickle Cell Cause. You can email us with volunteering in the subject box at sicklecellcause@gmail.com. And we are a community-based grassroots community group. Please donate to support our cause and the works that we do. We support sickle cell warriors in the UK and also in the Gambia. You can donate to our Barclays account by direct transfer. We're under the name of Healthy Living International Limited, who are our sponsors. The sort code is 204657 and the account number is 0348 4114. You can also donate via PayPal, and you can call us on 07508 908 549 for more information on how to donate or how to receive support for yourself or any family member. Okay, moving on. Today's discussion is about blood donation. So it's our blood donation table talk for January 2021, and we'll be discussing cause and effect. Right, why give blood? What is the process and effects of blood donation? How to help prevent the reliance for frequent and consistent blood transfusions, and also advice from the panel. But before we go any further, I'll just show you a short video which will help you to understand what is the process and the effects of blood donation. So this short video footage is called The Journey of Blood Donation.
Whole blood donations from the donation venue are transported by NHSBT vehicles to the blood centre. Where the donations are sorted and registered. The donations are then sent to the manufacturing area, while each donor's blood samples are sent to be tested. In manufacturing, the white blood cells are filtered out of each donation. Each blood donation is then broken down into its separate component parts using a centrifuge. Red blood cells, plasma or platelets are extracted using specialised machines. All the different components are sent to their specific holding areas where they will be quarantined until all the required testing is completed. Meanwhile, in the testing lab, the samples are being tested. Each donation is tested to find out the donor's blood group and compared against your records if you've donated before. The donations are also checked for viruses to help ensure that each donation is safe to transfuse to patients. Once all the testing is complete and passed, each pack of blood can be labelled and placed into controlled storage, ready to be sent to hospitals. Most deliveries to hospitals go unnoticed by the public, but sometimes an urgent delivery may require a vehicle with sirens and blue flashing lights to get to the patient as quickly as possible. After some checks, the blood is ready to be transfused. Because each blood donation is split into its component parts, your one donation can help to save or improve the lives of up to 3 people. Thank you for doing something amazing. Thank you for giving blood.
Okay, so that short video footage was prepared by the NHS Blood and Transplant Donation Centre, and it was sent to Sickle Cell Cause by the beautiful Miss B, Brenda Smith, who is on our panel this evening. So we'll be speaking to her very shortly. But in the meantime, just to give you a little bit of feedback, right? What is sickle cell? Right? We speak a lot about the word sickle cell, but not everybody knows what sickle cell actually is. We do have videos on our YouTube channel, so you can go to the Sickle Cell Cause YouTube channel to find out our explanation of what exactly sickle cell is. So I won't go through the whole of it today, but what I will say is that it is an hereditary blood disorder, something that runs in families, and it's a very painful, life-threatening, debilitating blood disorder. And the average sickle cell patient lives on a daily basis with full body pain. They can have eating disorders and a drug dependency on prescription drugs. They may suffer from trauma anxiety. A lot of sickle cell warriors have depression, and everything is heightened in these times. There's memory failure, tooth and hair loss, ulcers, swollen joints. There's an array of illnesses, priapism, epitaxis. It's a lot of sickle cell warriors even have a morbid fear of impending death because many of us were given a date of how long we were expected to live. And then when you pass that age, you believe you're living on borrowed time, so that impending feeling, that morbid fear, stays with you. But that's the reason why we do have counsellors, peer-to-peer counsellors. Many of our sickle cell warriors are trained counsellors so that they can give peer-to-peer support. And we also rely on the NHS, for their support with counselling, where we can get earmarked to other services that you may need. So sickle cell it's not just a blood disorder where somebody feels pain every now and then. It is a serious inherited blood condition, and it can be transferred. It's hereditary. Although you can't catch it off somebody, you can pass it on through your children. So it is something to consider looking into. Today we'll be speaking to, I've got 3 guests on the panel with me today. I've got Miss Tokwasi Holmes, Miss Brenda Smith, otherwise known as Miss B, and Leanne Palmer. And they will be speaking in turn, and then we'll have a little conversation at the end, and the subject, as I said before, is blood and blood donation. So moving on, the first person that I would like to call to the forefront is Miss Tokwasi Holmes. Now, Sister Tokwasi works for the NHS in the blood donation, department. Can see her details on the screen. All right. So, Sis, thank you very much and welcome. I'm just going to take the screen off so we can see your face. I'll just stop sharing for the minute.
Yes, give thanks, Samantha.
Right. And I just wanted to, I've got a couple of questions for you. I'm going to put this on speaker view. It's such a hard day that I've forgotten what I'm doing. Right. So, first of all, how are you? How are you today? Let's get that.
I'm fine. Been a busy day as well in work. Well, working from home, but
Yeah, you're one of those lucky ones that always look good anyway. So, so we have to ask because you may not be well, but you always look good. A true empress.
I try.
What is it
you
that
have to stay strong in this time?
Sorry, said that.
I just say you have to stay strong in this time.
Well,
try your best.
Without a doubt, to have no choice. You have to. Right. What is it that you do in your spare time? I mean, we know that you work hard within the NHS doing what you do, but what is it that you do in your spare time?
So my spare time, I became a donor ambassador. So a few years ago, I trained to be this donor ambassador, where I go out into the community and encourage people from our community to give blood because of I know how important it is for our community because of sickle cell. And it's not just sickle cell. You see, there's also organ donation and there's also stem cell donation. Okay, so that's bone marrow. So all those three entities come under my remit in my work. And each of those entities, as Black people, we are lacking in. So for organ donor, for a Black person to sit on an organ register, they have to sit on there much longer than a white person would. And when it comes to giving blood, the only 1% of Black population give blood compared to the white population. So, but then how much people in our community have sickle cell and how many of them need a transfusion. But we now know that when these transfusions happen, ethnicity matters. So when they need to have their transfusion, it's much more beneficial for them if it comes from their own ethnic background.
Okay, that's true. You know what you're telling me is like we're hearing this important information, right? But the question is, what do you do in your spare time? So it seems to me like you're always working. How do you actually relax? What do do you have hobbies? What do you do
baking, cooking, sewing. I do those little things. So I bake and I sew. And at this time you just stay indoors, innit? I don't go. I go from every fortnight we go into work to our office because we have to go into work to prepare our kits to send out to our donors. Apart from that, I'm at home. So while I'm at home, I will cook and I'll bake. I'll just on Zooms. Going a lot of Zooms, a lot of reading. I'll tell you the truth, I am bad with my reading, so I use Audible. So I download books and I listen to books.
Okay. That's great, because I have to say that although I've known you for a few years now, the only time I've ever seen you is in the capacity of you working. That's why I had to ask. It's like, come on, sister, you need to take time out. You need to, but I'm glad to know that you do enjoy cooking and, you do have things that you do to.
I do, yeah, but I really enjoy the work that I do because I know it's something, you're saving someone's life. Whatever,
Yes.
The three remit is saving someone's life.
Yeah. A true empress. Sister, do you have a presentation that you wanted to share, or
I didn't actually set up a presentation, but I can just talk. Is that all right? Okay.
Yeah, that's great.
So I'm preaching to the people who know it already, but I'll go. So sickle cell disorder and blood donation to me come hand in hand. 1 in 76 babies born in the UK carry the sickle cell trait, and approximately 15,000 people in the UK have sickle cell disorder. Yeah. Approximately 270 babies with sickle cell are born in the UK every year. Yeah. So, you know, sickle cell is a serious and lifelong health condition. Okay, so every time we donate, we only donate 1 pint of blood.
That's
But
right.
those who have to have a transfusion or an exchange, as
Yeah.
you call it as well, you need at least 4 or 5 pints. So you can imagine, where is all this blood coming from? If we only give 1 pint and you need 4 or 5 pints, where is this blood coming from? Yeah. So there are many donors, and you have to big them up, all the volunteers who give their blood, you know, willingly.
Yes.
But as we say, the majority of them is white. So if you, as a sickle cell warrior, need these transfusions and you continue to get these transfusions over years, you can build up antibodies within your blood, which can be detrimental.
Yes.
So this is why we come in now, and we are trying to encourage more Black people to give blood, because we know, as we said, ethnicity matters. So if you can get more Black people to give blood, then those who need their transfusion can get that blood from your own ethnicity, which will be much more beneficial for you, and you can have a better quality of life.
Mm-hmm.
There is a subtype of our ABO blood type, which is called RO, and which is predominantly found in Black African descent people. And this RO type is only found in a small majority proportion of those who actually give blood. So this is why, again, we need the Black people to give blood. So this RO type is very important when it treating those who suffer with sickle cell. Yeah. As we say, Black people are 10 times more likely than white people to have the vital, important RO blood subtype. People from similar ethnic backgrounds are more likely to have matching blood, but there are not enough Black donors, and some Black hospital patients don't always get the best matched blood, you know? So this is where I go out, and well, everything now is virtual. We're doing it on Zoom, but this is where I used to go out into the community, and I'd travel anywhere, north, south, east, and west. Yeah, and
I bear witness.
weekends, you know, it's something I didn't mind doing. I would travel. For me to get from here to London, it would take 2 hours. But while I'm in London, it could take me 2 to 3 hours to get from one place to another.
Yeah,
I don't know how you people manage living in London. Yeah, but yes, but it didn't bother me. No, it didn't bother me, because I know the importance of it. If we do not help ourselves, who is going to help us?
Exactly.
You have to think outside the box. So when I go and I talk to people, when I go on these events, and I say to them, you know, when I say that thing to them, it sort of changes their mindset. They think, you know, yeah, maybe you're right. If we do not help ourselves, who's going to do it for us?
Yes.
You know, and that's all we have to do, is we have to be able to talk to our families, talk to our friends, share the news, encourage them. And it's so surprising how you find families who have sickle cell patients with disorder in their family, yet they don't give blood because they're still afraid of giving blood. And this is the kind of thing that we need to try and kill those myths. You know, we've done a video within NHBT, a video to try and stop those myths about why people don't give blood.
Yeah.
You know, and I think I've shared it with you. You have seen it, haven't you?
Yes.
That video.
Yes.
It's those kind of things we need to be putting out. So like what you're doing here now, it's these kind of things we need to be putting out to the community. That giving blood, it only takes 15 minutes. You know, might take a little longer because you have to sit and wait for the other people to come off the machine. I give blood every 4 months, because for a woman can give 3 times a year. A man gives 4 times a year. Yeah.
Okay.
And I give him blood. And the last time I was on the machine, it took me 10 minutes. The time before that was only 6 minutes. Yeah. And you get the needle prick, you sit on the machine, you can sit and listen to music for those few minutes. By the time you turn around, you're finished. Once you finish, you come off, they make sure that you're fine and feeling well, and you sit and you have a drink and a crisp or a fruit or something, and they make sure that you're well, and then you leave. But it is one of the most worthwhile things to do. I also am on the organ donation register because I believe when I pass, my body will disintegrate into the ground. But if my organs can help somebody to live, especially my community, to live and have a better life, then they can have it. Okay.
Yeah.
I'm also on the stem cell registry, but you're only on there until the age of 60. So my time will soon be up. But I joined that register because if I can give stem cells or bone marrow to someone to save their life, then I would do it. You know?
With regards to stem cell and bone marrow, I hear that it's a painful process, and you really do have to have like a complete match.
Yes, yeah. So this is where it comes the blood now. See why they're saying ethnicity matters? Because they know now that within the blood our DNA. So when you cut your skin and your blood is red, same way like a white person, but our DNA, our makeup is completely different. Yeah. So when you have a stem cell or bone marrow transplant, you have your DNA and your blood group, all of those things. Your blood group is not that important, but your DNA has to match for it to have a better outcome. Sometimes you will find that because they search and they can't find a match, they will find somebody with a slight mismatch, and that may work, but then your body may reject it. But you know, the best possible outcome is to find a full match. And this is why we try to encourage more Black people to join that register as well. Bone marrow, you would say yes, because bone marrow is where you would go under general anesthetic and they put you to sleep. That process only takes 25 minutes, but it is more invasive because they are taking the bone marrow from your lower hip. Yes, back. But when it comes to stem cells, we call it peripheral stem cell collection. You sit on a machine just like you would, like you're giving blood. So you sit on that machine for up to about 4 hours, and they take out your blood and take the stem cells out, put your blood back into you. And that process is much more easier, and it's not painful at all. Many of our donors who do it, they go back to work the next day. So it is quite a much easier process than the bone marrow collection.
Thank you. Thank you for that. I'm going to ask you, please, if you can stay, don't leave us, because we're going to have a little panel chat, all together. So I'm just going to go to the next speaker now, if you just give me a minute. Okay, Sister Kwasi, thank you so much for the information you've shared. As I said, please stay with us, and we'll have a panel chat with us all at the end of, after everybody's had said what they have to say. So please stay with us. I'll be back with you in a second. Okay, next up, we are in celebration mode, I have to say, because today is a great celebration. We've got a community champion. I mean, you're all champions, but Miss B, Brenda Smith, you just take the whammy, the Grammy, we have to applaud our champions. I'm sorry, I didn't even realize that I had turned off my camera. We have to applaud our champions, our community greats. We are so proud to have you amongst us. Sickle Cell Cause is so honored that you are on, our platform. The works that you've done over these many decades, and I feel somewhat like happy that you learned a bit about sickle cell, through Sickle Cell Cause before you even went on to learn more. So, I'll take that, I'll take that.
Yes, of course, take it, please.
I'm so proud to see that you've, grown and you've taken on what sickle cell is all about. But it's not just about sickle cell, it's what you do. You do so much in our community. I'm so proud, but let me just see some notes that I've taken, right? Because I have to remember that we are celebrating, is it 40 years of blood donation?
No. So I've on Monday, the 15th of February, I will be giving my 40th blood donation. And that's because on Monday, the 15th, it's my birthday. And I wanted to encourage other people to volunteer. And when I say other people, I do mean Black people, and in particular Black men, and in particular young Black men. Yeah. Those who do come forward from the Black community are often Black women of middle age, which I am now. But if I can just go back a bit and sort of explain why I started donating in my 20s. So I used to work in central London, and one day I went past a van at London Bridge, and I really couldn't stand the commute when it was really crowded. So I wanted to kill some time. So I thought, and I just wandered into the fan, and they said, oh, this is blood donation. And I saw biscuits and tea and coffee and stuff. And I thought, like, you know, that can't be too hard. So I thought I'd kill a little hour to miss the rush, because I couldn't bear the rush, you know. And because I was very new to working uptown and everything, and you know, just the crowds just got on my nerves. And I filled out the form. They asked me various questions, health checks. They took a test of my iron. I felt that I was going around these various stations, and I was getting nearer to the bed, and I was feeling, oh, I hope I have enough hemoglobin, and I hope I have enough. And I did. And they struggled to find a vein, and eventually they found one, and you know, it was a little scratch. And I gave blood, and I took all as much biscuits and crisps as I could for my journey back home. Nobody was watching me, but the feeling I had when I came out of the van, I had that halo feeling. I felt really good. I had no concept, to be honest, of what they would have done with my blood. I have an understanding that the blood is needed for people who maybe were in a car accident. That's what I used to think, or a pregnancy and needed a transfusion. At that time, and we're talking the early 80s, sickle cell wasn't in my conscience. I wasn't giving it because I knew somebody who had sickle cell. I was just giving because. And because I had such a good feeling, I just kept giving. There were times when I would go and my iron levels were too low, and I felt really disappointed. I used to walk away and feel like, oh, I'm not good enough. Yeah. And then they would say, no, you got to just take some supplements. It happens with women, you know, you have periods or times when you're a bit anemic or a bit lower. So don't worry about it. But it's not just me, all donors. I think most donors, when they're told that they can't donate because of iron levels, you do see them sort of hang their heads and sort of walk away. However, once you get used to it and you understand, then you eat properly, you prepare for your appointment. But as a donor, I can see over the years that the NHS have got so much better and so much slicker in their procedure. They really do want to make it a positive experience. And how they do that is they have various people at various stations. So you would come and you're greeted. And you're greeted and saying, welcome. How are you feeling? Are you okay? And you say, yes, I feel okay. And they give you a information pack or booklet that no matter how many times you donate, you must read, because things are constantly changing and being updated. So for me, I find that very reassuring, because they are making sure that the blood being offered is the right blood, and trying to do their screening from the get-go. So some people can self-screen, and if they see something on there, then they can tactfully walk and say, oh, maybe not today, without embarrassing themselves or, you know, getting into any discussions. But if you feel you can donate, then you go on to the next station, where somebody will come and test your blood, your hemoglobin, your iron levels, and all of this done in a screen and confidentially, and they test your blood, and if it's okay, then you get the pack, and then you wait to be seated, and then give blood. And in COVID times, because I have been donating during the lockdown, they are very keen to keep you safe as well. I have to say that, because we still have to wear the mask. You can't be accompanied. They're trying to minimize the amount of people in the actual station when you're giving the donation. The nurse is also very much wearing their mask, and they're constantly washing their hands. Wash, 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 wash. So everything is, they're trying to reassure, well, they are reassuring, and they are taking steps to make it safe. But back in the day, the scratch has got, or the needle prick has got less and less sort of, that scratch. I think they're using better needles.
Okay.
The nurses are experts in finding the right vein. I've seen people where, the nurse is very attentive, and they say, is it okay? You say, yeah. Is it okay? Yeah. Just do what you need to do. Just do. And people are so hypnotized on their mobiles, going through Instagram or social platforms, that the time the needle gets in and stuff, lots of donors are not even, it's nothing.
Okay.
But I do appreciate that some people have needle phobias, phobia, and I wouldn't want to, not acknowledge that. But from my experience, they are so skilled, and they try their best to do it smoothly and to make you comfortable, and everything's got kind of dynamics. Back in the day, we used to just sit on a bed kind of thing. Now they got these chairs that go back and you rock, and make you, so it's all good. And I enjoy the process. I really do. And once you've given your donate, oh, I forgot to say, what they do before you go and give your pint, they take 3 samples, and maybe you can tell me what they're testing for, but they take 3 samples which they test, as well as the bag of blood. And the pints, rightly so, maybe 10 minutes or less, it depends. They encourage you to drink water before you give a donation, so that it runs smoothly, or you bring your own drink, but maybe just water or a bit of juice, just to get it going. And then once you get round and you're giving your blood, they always ask, are you okay? Don't get up too quickly, go over there, sit down, and just take your time to recover, and ask you to arrange your next appointment, or you go online and arrange your next appointment. And it's effortless in that sense. I mean, I would say, to be honest, to give yourself an hour. So book something very tight and then you're uptight because it's not going as quickly. But they do take their time in, and that's because of safety reasons.
Yeah.
And safety reasons, because obviously they have to make sure that the blood is right for the recipient. And
Yeah.
I'd just like to say something else. As I've developed and learned more about sickle cell, and that's through Sickle Cell Course Haringey, I now are even more conscious about how I organize my donations, because as already mentioned, women can only go give 3 times a year, and I don't want to give less than 3 times a year. So I really organize my trips to make sure I get them in, get my in for the 3 years, so that I don't miss out. Yeah. And there's reasons why they do that, because they may say from that country there's certain things and they want to make sure that the blood is safe. So I don't really argue with that. I don't have a problem personally with that, because if I was receiving blood, I would want it to be of the highest quality.
Of course, yes.
Now, why I'm here and on my journey, it is very true. Even in London, you see very few Black people in the donation hall, no matter what time you go. So whether I book in the morning or in the afternoon or in the evening, I have started to see more Black people, but that might be just one sister or brother. Whereas coming through the doors, there's 3 or 4 white people coming in of all ages, from from young teens, from 17 upwards to 60 plus. And I just feel that it's a space we should be occupying.
Yes.
We really should. If we can have piercings, if we can have tattoos, my gosh, you can give blood.
That's right.
Those 2 things are more painful than the little insertions they're going to make in order to get the blood. And the feeling you have is amazing. I just want to give one more story, and it's very recent. I was in Brixton and I was giving blood in Brixton Town Hall, and I saw this young girl and woman. She's got to be less than 20, but more than 17 years of age. And I tell you, that woman was locked on her phone. When I say just hypnotized by the phone, the nurse was incidental, to, trying to ask her, are you okay? Is it okay? And she was just like, yeah. Just do it. Yeah. And she was locked into her phone. She was so locked that when I got in my car and was driving back home, she was crossing the road and she was still locked into her phone. She never looked left nor right.
Oh gosh.
As she crossed the road. But I said to myself, but she gave. She gave an hour. And she gave blood. And this is one of my frustrations now that I've got older and got a sense of how important it is. Why don't we have the young black person locked into their phone but donating at the same time? And I've also started to see motorbikes saying blood being transported across London. And that really makes me stand up and feel I need to give blood. I need to give blood, because when I see the motorbike man really going, that means somebody needs it.
Immediately. They're going
immediately. And I've seen that twice during lockdown when I do my daily exercise, and the motorbike man is not playing. So that just gives me a sense of this is not just for biscuits and a drink. You need to be doing this because it really does save a life.
Yeah,
It's
I'm telling you,
important.
it's like you started doing it like because it was like an accident, you know. So maybe the biscuits and the drink was the enticement to stay and to, you know, the warmth, you know. But by you just setting foot in that place, and then as you said, like because you're trying to give healthily as possible, the blood to be, it's even encouraging you to keep your body healthy.
Yes.
It encourages, and then there's like the bonding of other blood donors. You know, I'm sure you meet them regularly. Like you may not all the same time at the same time, but I'm sure you must get to know each other at the same blood donation.
You don't necessarily get to know other blood donors, but you certainly get to know the nurses because they go round, and things like that. But you know, it's when you talk about community activity, you might think time, money, you know, what can you do to give? And if the only activity you could do was to give blood 3 times a year, that will be up there.
Yeah.
Because 1 pint of blood can save 3 lives. That's how they say it.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So if you give blood regularly, 3 times a year, and if you're a man, 4 times a year, and your blood can be ethnically matched, that, you know, the feeling of saving somebody's life or making their life easier, immediately is a great feeling. And for us, or for me, there's more difficult things that I do daily than give blood.
Mm-hmm. All I know is that both you and Sister Kwasi and all the blood donors, black blood donors, but you know, all blood donors, you know, you do a tremendous job. You're walking around, you know, going about your daily business, but really you are lifesavers. I mean, you can't count the amount of lives you saved. You don't know the amount, but you do know that you've saved lives, you know.
Yes.
So you do
I
know.
just wanted to say the NHS have got better because now they will tell you where your donation has gone.
Okay.
Just about to say that, Brenda. Yes.
You get a text message maybe 2 or 3 weeks later, because obviously they test it and everything, and it might say Middlesex Hospital, or it might say Birmingham Hospital. I've received texts, and these things motivate you and make you feel good.
Yeah, and that's encouraging to go back again, because like rather than just you do it and you don't hear nothing, sometimes people are like, oh, I won't bother this time, you know. But if you see that kind of information coming back to you, will encourage you, you know, to go again.
They keep, and then also, just like anything in life, they give you awards. So if you give 5 donations, I think you get an award. Then if you do 15, and then it's, you know, a various amounts. And even the donors are like, oh, I want to get to my 100th donation, or I want to get to my, and so in that world where you ask the donors, there is a world where the donors themselves want to
competition.
give a certain amount to get the award. Well, and that's okay. I don't mind that. That's okay.
But we at Sickle Cell Cause, sorry to cut you, we'll come back to the panel. We haven't got no big award, but what we will do, you know, to say thank you is give you guys your notebook, your Sickle Cell Cause notebook. You know, I know that you say giving blood it's not difficult, you know, it's a simple, you know, but sometimes, you know, you may want to relieve some stress. So you've got your stress balls coming your way as well. You know,
well, we use that to help with the blood flow, so I can take that.
You know, so you'll be getting those in the post as well. And also, for future, you'll be drinking out of your Sickle Cell Cause mug.
You know? Well, you know me, cup of tea. That makes it worthwhile. That does make it worthwhile.
Okay, so those will be coming your way. But I do have to say that personally, I have had blood. I've, you know, like from teenagers upwards. And I did some, sure I mentioned it earlier, you know, and it's like every month, every 6 weeks, and that was the way they treated sickle cell back in the day, because they wasn't looking into any, you know, alternatives or anything like that, you know. But I say we as sickle cell warriors need to, you know, take our health, be more responsible for our own health. Sickle cell affects us every day, you know, so we should try to manage our sickle cell symptoms every day, right? We have a lack, as you guys have mentioned, with black blood donors, right? So try and stay healthy so that we don't, you know, tire the system, you know. I'm not going to say that I will never have another blood donation, right? But what I will say is that I'm trying my hardest not to need it, you know, so that I'm not, you know, constantly, you know, taking out the resources, you know. But today we have Leanne with us, you know. Now Leanne is the sickle cell cause manager, chairperson. I'm just going to okay, so I have to share a little bit about myself, you know, with regards to blood donation. Now, whilst I'm so proud of our blood donors, I'm not even proud, grateful, so grateful. I've had so many blood transfusions and exchange blood transfusions in my life, you know, but I did make a conscious decision to try and refrain from having the need to rely on blood transfusions to manage my sickle cell. You know, back in the 60s, the 70s and the 80s, there wasn't very much that they knew about or to offer us to try and manage our sickle cell. Everything was like blood transfusions, but now when we're more, you know, advanced, we know more about nutrition, you know, we know more about our own bodies as well, with the assistance of, you know, the internet and things like that. So at Sickle Cell Cause, we do, you know, encourage a healthier lifestyle, and we do encourage self-responsibility with regards to managing sickle cell, so that we're not a drain on the resources, you know. And as our blood donors mentioned earlier, you know, there is a lack with black blood donors, you know, and we do need to have a good match, you know, with the DNA, and you know, just to have, you know, so the antibodies don't, you know, build up in our system, you know. So rather than being a drain on the service, let's try and manage ourselves so we don't need to have to keep going into hospital for a blood transfusion, you know. So I have our group chairperson on the line now, on the call. She's going to, you know, take the screen in a second, and she is also our family health and welfare manager. Leanne is a community business builder, and I'm in her business, and it's great. You know, we worked in the Gambia as well. She's a Kemetic yoga basu, and she also has a professional organizing service. Some people may wonder, what is that? You know, so I'm just going to ask Leanne, please, can you share with us, first of all, what is a professional organizing service?
Okay, greetings everybody. A professional organizing is basically, it's just about decluttering. So I help people that hoard items. I help people that just have difficulties letting go of things, or just organizing the things that they have. So that's one of my skills that I have, and I've been able to kind of share it in the community. In relation to working with a lot of sickle cell patients and their families, I've gone into many homes and have found that people that are suffering severely with their sickle cell do find it difficult to keep on top of the home, especially if they're living by themselves. So that I've been able to share that skill with quite a few of our sickle cell warriors. So that's kind of it in a nutshell regarding
what I heard from others is that, like, the service helps, like, with anxiety, because I'll let you explain. How does it relate with anxiety?
A lot of the time the anxiety comes from it's that whole thing of letting go of something, where you're not necessarily, there's no longer any value in the item, but there's an attachment to the item. And a lot of the time it can stem back into childhood, it can stem back into trauma. It's attached to a lot of different things. And what I have found with our sickle cell warriors, the anxiety, a lot of the time, it's difficult because every case is different. But yeah, there is always anxiety around letting go of something that you have an attachment with.
Yeah, and also it's like being a sickle cell warrior. I know that, you know, a lot of people love it, even in different families. It's hard to keep relationships. It's difficult to, you know, people don't stay. You know, some people do, but you know, so you sort of like attach yourself to things. You know, and that can cause, like, I've been to many warriors' homes, and it's like sometimes it's like they've got things cluttering up the place that they've had for decades. It's of no use. But you know, they want to let go, they want to they know they don't need it, but they just find it difficult. So that's where I find that your services really do help, and I've had like a lot of feedback what we have as a group with regards to that, you know. So
yeah, it's also it also relates to you know, that we do have a high number of warriors that suffer with depression. So depression has a knock-on effect in terms of how you function on a day-to-day basis. So clutter can come from that aspect,
yeah,
of daily living.
yeah.
But ultimately, the philosophy is, if you've got a clear space, you have a clearer mind. So, and with a clearer mind, you're able to function, you know, better.
Yeah, that's true. Tell us a bit about your the yoga, because you do that with the group, and you know, I benefit greatly from it, you know. So tell us a bit about your yoga.
So the yoga that I do is kinetic yoga. So it comes with a context, and that context is relating to ancient, or not ancient, because the word ancient means that something's dead and no longer active, but it stems from Egypt, traditional African culture, which is very much alive. It's been practiced for over 5,000 years, and it is actually where the hatha yogas and all the other type of yogas have derived from. So when you go into small remote pockets of West Africa, you will find certain tribes, particularly Dogons, they still practice these ancient practices. In terms of, and it is a spiritual practice, but in terms of how it has an impact on one's health, is quite significant. So there's a multitude of benefits that you can get from yoga. And the main thing I would say is about the breath, that life force, and how you optimize your breath, how you consciously breathe. All of these things help with the flow of oxygen in the blood, the flow of blood itself going through the body. So these things are beneficial for sickle cell warriors. And there's a whole multitude of health benefits now, such as memory, concentration, spinal strength, alignment, respiratory strength, increased blood flow, muscle tone. So it's like the list goes on. So in terms of just general good health, yoga is a good practice.
Yeah, that's for sure. That's for sure.
Okay. Can you see my screen?
Yeah, thanks for that, Leanne. Thanks for that breakdown. Yeah, please go ahead with your sharing. Thank you.
Yeah, kind of just, I do have a presentation, and I'm going to try and keep it concise, and just, you know, I just want to reiterate like the work that both Tukwasi and Brenda are doing in the community is amazing, because you are literally saving lives, and that's what blood is. Blood literally carries life. And just to kind of touch on what you said as well, Sam, in terms of, it's good that we're working from both ends of the spectrum, because the reality is that we do not have enough Black donors to deal with the multitude of conditions we're dealing with, because sickle cell is just one. And look at the numbers and the complexities that are just within sickle cell, and then you've got so many other different ailments that require blood. So it is a huge task. So I think it's good that we work from both ends. So where I'm coming from, I'm kind of just focusing on blood itself and trying to help people get a better understanding of what blood is, like where it stands and how it works. Because if we can understand those three main things, then we will know how to better look after the blood that we have and how to optimize the blood that we have. And to answer the question that's being posed today in terms of how, I can't remember the exact question, but how to be less reliant or not completely dependent. I think when we're dealing with blood, it should be a life-saving situation, not a maintenance situation. Yeah. We want to try and come away from using blood as a maintenance, but using blood as a life-saving situation.
Yes,
particularly taking into consideration the amount of blood that we have access to.
Yeah. That's exactly the point I was trying to make with regards to sickle cell. It's like, try to, yes, we may need blood transfusions and exchange transfusions, but rather than having it as like a monthly, 6-weekly thing that you're treating yourself with blood, that's supposed to be a life-saving source when you need it, so we're not, draining the service, so we're not a drain on the service. But anyway, sorry to cut in. I'm going to turn off my mic now and let you continue. Thank you.
So I would say that this information is relevant to everybody, and it's also relevant to the person that is receiving blood as well as it is the person that's giving blood, because it's about optimizing as an individual what we have. So blood, what is blood? Firstly, sickle cell is all about the blood. What is blood? So blood is the body's fluid that carries life. Sorry, I'm just got things on my screen, apologies. Yeah, so blood is the body's fluid that literally carries life to the cells, and we've got some images here, and I really find the one on the left quite fascinating because those are actually blood vessels. But when you look at it, to me, it looks like a tree. And it just goes to show how life and nature reflects itself in so many different ways. Everything is intertwined and everything comes into a oneness. I just find that fascinating. But the picture above it, life is in the blood, and that is literally, life is in the blood. So to me, it leads on to the question of what is life? And in the most simplistic understanding, it's the elements: air, earth, fire, water, and even electric, because based on the accumulation, storage, and the usage of the electron, life is electric. So these are the things, this is life. So now we want to look at what is it that is actually, our blood is actually carrying? What is it actually made of? So blood has 4 components, which is the white blood cell, the platelets, plasma, and the red blood cell. So the white blood cell actually makes up approximately 1% of the total blood volume in a healthy adult. And it's an important 1% because it's the part of the body's immune system helping to fight infection and disease. Next, we have the platelets, which is less than 1% of the total blood volume. So it's a small colorless disc-shaped fragment, and it deals with blood coagulation and wound healing. So it basically clogs. It helps to stop bleeding by clumping and forming plugs in blood vessel injuries. And then we have the plasma, which is one that I find quite fascinating. So over half of the blood volume is plasma. And when it's separated from the other blood components, it's a liquid, it's a light yellow liquid. And I know that the plasma is very important. People donate plasma as well for a multitude of things. But what the main role of the plasma is to carry all the blood components through the body, to carry the nutrients, hormones, enzymes, and proteins to the parts of the body that needs it. And also another major job that it does, it helps to remove waste, which is a big deal. So that's a big task. So it's predominantly fluid, and actually of that plasma, 92% of plasma is actually water. So this kind of goes back to the nature. It goes back to what is our blood actually carrying? It's carrying the elements of life. So something that Dr. Sebi explained quite well from his perspective is that sickle cell anemia is when the blood plasma has been broken down by mucus. So if anyone follows Dr. Sebi, you know that his whole thing is about mucus is the problem, is the disease of any illness is to do with mucus. So he's saying that it's the mucus that's getting into the plasma, sinking into the plasma, and then into the red blood cell that's actually breaking it and disuniting the cell. So from his perspective, removing the mucus is what will reunite the cell. And also how to maintain that is through the maintenance of iron. So that's something to really kind of take into consideration. And we can come back to that point as well. So, and then we have the red blood cell, which is it's actually a little bit more than 40% of the blood's volume. And the red blood cell delivers oxygen to the body's tissues. And it's predominantly made up of the hemoglobin, which carries the iron-rich protein. So just to touch on iron a little bit, iron is the spark plug of the human body. The mineral that conveys oxygen to the brain. It's the only mineral on the planet that is magnetic, so it has a tendency to pull other minerals to it. When you're deficient in iron, you're susceptible to many diseases. There's no oxygen going to the brain without iron. So without iron, the body loses energy and the immune system begins to give way. Obviously, there is the aspect of there being too much iron, but in this context, iron is very important. So just this page is just to touch on the fact that we've spoken about hemoglobin having iron, the plasma being predominantly water, and I'm sure if we look into it closer, we'll find the earth and the fire elements as well. But in terms of the electric principle in the human body is facilitated by the red blood cell and its iron core. So we can see how blood is actually carrying life itself, because it's actually carrying the elements of, it's almost like saying what is above is below, what is within is without. It all comes into a oneness. And I think it's important for us to understand exactly what blood is made up of, because then we know what it needs to maintain itself. So just connecting this back to sickle cell, because we already have an understanding that sicklers have a very low hemoglobin count. So we know with that there's reduced oxygen, reduced iron, which means reduced oxygen. And if you don't have enough iron in your body, you can't make enough healthy oxygen carrying red blood cells. So we kind of understand what we're dealing with here. So that's the what. Now we're kind of looking at the where. And the question is where are red blood cells produced? And in general terms, we're taught that it's produced in the bone marrow. That is actually a European school of thought. And I think it ties in very well with the idea of, I know we were speaking earlier about if we're dependent on European blood, it can actually cause a problem for a melanated person because we're different. I heard that come through, that we're different. So that's why it's so important that we have Black donors, because it needs to be compatible. And it comes down to here as well in terms of the school of thought, because all bones produce blood in infancy. But once they're dried and they're mature, only moist bones, such as the spinal column, can and should produce blood cells. So the bone's actual purpose is to produce electricity and to keep the body electrified. So you could say bones are a bit like quartz crystals, where they have the potential to store great amounts of electricity and electric output if they're properly taken care of. So bones do one of two things. One, they produce electricity when operating at a state of optimum. And two, or the second, is they revert back into blood when operating in a state of deficiency. So to just elaborate on that, the bone marrow, blood produced in the bone marrow presents a state of deterioration, sickness, and death. The bone liquefies or differentiates as a survival mechanism. So it's a process in which the bone marrow reverts back into blood to prevent death. So for every minute that the bones are used to produce blood, one's lifespan is being significantly reduced. And once the bone is no longer able to differentiate, the body's organs are then put under pressure. So that leads to the question now, so where are the blood cells actually produced? So the red blood cell is actually produced in the villi hairs of the small intestine, which is in the stomach. So they say healthy villi produce 3 to 6 million red blood cells per second. And the minimum threshold is 3.5 million red blood cells in the bloodstream. So anything below the threshold will affect the body's bones. So if the villi is not producing the threshold, then it's going to be dependent on the bones. And once we're dependent on the bones, we're now functioning in a state of deterioration. So the intestinal villi actually determines your lifespan. So this is now just going to kind of take it back to the whole school of thought. So intestinal villi and hair. Intestinal villi are intimately tied to the hairs all over the rest of our bodies. So what you do with one group, you actually do with all. So for example, perms, cuts, presses, braids, locks, all of these things encode new expressions into the DNA, which affects the hair and villi growth. So for example, the perms and the cuts, they actually shock the DNA. And it tells the DNA that you don't want the villi to grow in its natural, strong, muscular form. So what happens then is that it becomes nutrient deficient. The hair becomes dead and flank, causing early signs of gray and baldness. And the villi in the intestine loses its ability to produce red blood cells. So you can literally tell the quality of your villi by the quality of your hair. So the strength of your hair is signified by the tightness of each individual strand, the curl of each individual strand. And it applies to other aspects of life. So it's like the structuring of water. Water, it naps into like little number 9s. Even when a planet is born, you will see that it naps into a 9. And that's the same way how the hair follicles work. So the more your hair curls, the more nutrient dense it is, and the strength of the texture. All of those things equals more abundant red blood cell production, because the hair is actually a living operational device, and it drastically impacts on lifespan. So just to touch on how the red blood cell is produced. Okay. So in the Vili, the Vili combines, so this is the how now. So the Vili combines fresh, clean water with Monera to create blood. And the Monera is good bacteria derived from healthy living foods. So it's like we always end up coming back down to the food, what it is that we're actually putting into our bodies. So that's the main thing. And then the second thing there is the environment of the Vili. So the Vili needs an acidic environment in the small intestine. So minerals can only be extracted in the small intestine when below 7 on the pH scale. So I know this kind of throws people off sometimes because a lot of us are trying to stay alkaline and we have a very heavy alkaline diet, but there needs to be balance in everything. And for the Vili in the small intestine to function properly, it needs to have some acidity in that area. So an over-alkaline small intestine can prevent mineral assimilation and digestion. So those are the conditions of the Vili, those are the conditions that we need for our bodies to produce blood cells at its best. So kind of bringing this back to the sickle cell warrior now, I'd say the sickle cell warrior has favor because we already are aware of who sickle cell affects. And really we're talking about people with high hue or melanin. So with that being said, if you have high hue and melanin, you are physically progressive, opposed to those who lack hue and melanin, they are physically degenerative. Another thing that the sickler has in its favor is that naturally, they have naturally living operational hair, opposed to those with flank or dead hair producing little to no red blood cells in the Vili and are dependent on the bone. So this kind of brings us back to that whole European school of thought with the blood being made from the bones. Because even if you look at evolution, if you look at a melanated being and a non-melanated being, when they go up in age, a lot of the time you will see like, you know, an 80-year-old melanated man standing quite strong. But then when you look at his European counterpart, they're usually quite hungover, and you can see that there's strain on the bones. Well, because of the melanin, melanated people have a much denser skeleton. So there is less blood production required from the bones, if that is making sense. So because we naturally have hair that is electrified, because we have a bone structure, we have these things kind of working in our favor. It's just a matter of actually looking after what we have. So just to conclude with solutions, it's going back to the point that Dr. Sebi made in terms of the plasma. We want to make sure that we don't have mucus in our plasma. We want to make sure that we're very well hydrated. So whatever we can do in our diet to reduce mucus would be a key point. And then touching on the point regarding the Vili, we want to make sure that the Vili is in a good state. So we want to make sure that we have good hair care, so that we have good Vili, and that we're feeding the Vili clean water and good healthy living foods. So I do know that the Sickle Cell Cause YouTube library has information about foods that are good for sickle cell warriors, but we also do have our in-house nutritionalist, Frida Gazy, and she has written a book. She is a sickle cell warrior herself, although has not suffered with the symptoms of sickle cell for many years because of her diet. And she no longer takes blood transfusions. So this is something we can do to help ourselves so that we're not dependent on blood donations, but also bearing in mind that if you have a life-threatening situation, that's a different matter. But we want to try and maintain what we've got and optimize what we've got. So yeah, that's what I wanted to share.
Wow, 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 Leanne, thank you. Thank you so much. If you can stop sharing your screen.
I shall.
Yeah, I'm blown. So ladies.
That was a brilliant presentation. Very, very good.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah.
So we'll be able to see that?
Yeah.
It'll be all in this recording, yeah?
Yeah.
Good.
Yes. Yeah. Every time I hear Leanne's presentation of this, I'm just blown. I mean, we've been students of Frida's for many years, you know, and to have the book, I always make sure that I have books here because I take frequent trips to the post office to have to post them to sickle cell warriors. But they can get the book on Amazon, you know, but you know, they can email sicklecellcause@gmail.com if they want us to send them a copy. It will cost the same price, so it's maybe easier now to just go on Amazon and get your copy. Because in the book, it explains exactly what Leanne's talking about. Plus, there's recipes. You know, she is a powerhouse of information, and she was a virtual student of Dr. Sebi, you know, decades ago, and she shares that information with us. And we are fortunate to have her as our in-house nutritional advisor. You know, so
that book can be useful to anyone then, really, isn't it?
Yes.
Yeah. She didn't design it just for the sickle cell, warrior. It is designed for optimum health for the human body. You know, so it's for everybody. You know, but the fact that
she's a testimony. She's a living testimony because she has the condition. She's a testimony that, you know, like what you were saying earlier, we can help ourselves. We can take some personal responsibility and help ourselves. That doesn't mean don't give blood. It just means
definitely, if you can avoid not having to have the transfusion, it's much more better for you if you can do it naturally and survive naturally without having that, you know. But we know that there are some people, some adults, some children that just
really
have to have it, you know. Yeah.
And that's the point, is that we need, until people are more willing to give, we need to stretch what we have. So if there's anyone that can not be in that pool of needing, we want to get them out, so that the people that really need that life-saving blood, the life-saving treatment, is where it should be going.
Yeah. And even like I used to have headaches every day, you know, and it's like when I cut out like dairy products out of my diet, I no longer had headaches. And we have to remember that pain is an indication that something's wrong. You know, the purpose of us feeling pain is telling our body that there's a problem in that part of your body, something's wrong, you know. So if you can manage pain, then you're getting rid of the problem, you know. So even though like in the hospital, the conventional way is to give us like medications like morphine and diamorphine and tramadol and pethidine and all these, you know, strong pain medications that, you know, get rid of the pain. You're not feeling the pain. It is not getting rid of the problem behind it, you know. And then again, if you're taking lots of blood transfusion, you're weakening your bones, you know. So it's a case of like, we need to try for self, you know. We need to support our supporters that are going out there giving their blood so that we can stay alive, you know. But we need to try for ourselves that we're not dependent. People that get themselves licked over, knocked down and things like that, they need an immediate blood transfusion. People with sickle cell, we can try to manage that we don't need it every 6 weeks, you know, every month. So it's about self-responsibility, you know, and the sickle cell cause is there to, you know, to assist. Brenda, did you want to add anything before?
Well, I was just going to say everybody could benefit from you know, better diet and cutting out things that don't help.
Yeah.
So I think that's really good, because as I said, one of the tests you're going to have when you're giving blood is your iron level, and you do want to get that, if you can, from your vegetables and the things that will give you the right level, rest and all of that kind of thing. So many times people are not sure how to improve their iron levels, and if you got 3 months or 4 months in between your donations, then you can eat properly, or eat better, I should say, eat better, in order to be ready to give blood as well. So that's one of the benefits of being a donor as well. You keep an eye on your own kind of
Exactly. Yeah.
how
Because
you're doing as well.
Yeah.
yeah, low iron is one of the main things that stop people from giving blood. You know, when I used to go out and recruit and talk to people, and one of the main things was they're anemic and they can't give blood. So I always say, take a spoon of molasses. I know it's sweet, but take a spoon of molasses, because molasses has a lot of iron in it.
Yeah. Yeah, I remember like being fed like Guinness and
Yeah,
Ribena as a
Guinness as
child,
well.
you know.
Yeah.
One of the things as well is like having a lot of blood transfusions as well as I'm only ever talking about within the sickle cell warrior, you know. A lot of them have iron overload because of
Yeah.
the amount of iron that the amount of blood that they're having, so they get an overload of iron. So that's another reason to try and work on ourselves, to try and reduce the amount of blood transfusions, that we take, so we don't get this iron overload, because that in itself needs treatment. When you have that, then you need more treatment. So it's like a circle. So it's all about optimum health, and it all begins with education and action.
And Brenda did ask a question earlier about the 3 tubes that they take, when you're giving blood. So those, they're called infectious disease markers. So every donor gets those tubes taken. So they check for syphilis, gonorrhea, hepatitis, HIV, all those things are tested and checked.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's why they have they take those 3 tubes. And point again, when you mentioned about the men, why we actually are crying out for more Black men as well, young Black men, is because they have less antibodies in them.
Yeah.
So it's much better for them.
Some
And
strong
actually,
warrior.
they are one of the worst,
blood.
the one of the, I should say, the
Absolutely.
hardest to get to give blood. The men are.
Yeah.
Big strapping men, and they're afraid of needles.
Needle.
Yeah, needle
Well,
phobia. That is one of the main things as well.
I do think, you have to think about that. If you have a real phobia, yeah, I'm not just talking about an inconvenience. I'm talking about people who just have a real phobia about it.
Yeah.
And people do find ways to get over it. And I think as donors, you make a commitment. I've seen donors who look away and say, don't tell me, just do it.
Let's do it.
There are people who, it's not always everybody comes in quite blasé and it's just, business as usual. There are lots of donors who are facing challenges, but they're so motivated for one reason or another. They're going to conquer whatever it is that's making them nervous. And
so we encourage them to, we encourage them to go with someone to a session, or even go to a donor center and watch and see how it's done. So go with a friend when they're getting it done and try and encourage them, make them see the.
Okay, ladies, you've been a fantastic panel, so before we close, I just wanted to find out if you had anything more to add to this video. We can do another video next time, but for this video, our closing words, please.
I'd like to just say thank you, Samantha, for inviting me on today. I should say Queen for inviting me onto this platform. And it's a very good thing that you're doing. And please talk to your family members, spread the word, just put it on your social media, encourage people to give blood, because it's a worthwhile thing. You're saving someone's life.
Thank you. Brenda?
Yes, I will endorse that. I think, yeah, it's one of the greatest community activity you could do, and you can do it anonymously in a sense. Nobody needs to know that you've donated your blood if that's what you want to do. I would, and it can be a lifetime thing that you could do. You can do it from your, 20s up to your 60s on a regular basis if you choose to, and you know that you're having an immediate impact.
Thank you. Leanne, any closing words?
Yeah, I would just say for those of us that are receiving blood and for those of us that are giving blood, we're so thankful. Let us all do our best to have the most optimum blood that we can by taking care of ourselves and understanding what blood is, how it works and what it needs.
Thank you. Thank you, panel. I just want to add before we leave that Sickle Cell Cause, we have our open meetings every third Saturday of the month, and 2021 is our Natural Health Solution Run for 2021. I just want to take this opportunity to again thank you, Sis Tokwasi. Thank you so much for joining us. Miss B, thank you so much, and congratulations. You are a champion, for your 40th, blood donation. We're with you, and when we're allowed to be out and about again, we shall partay as a must. Leanne Basuli, thank you so much for sharing your wealth of information. You always amaze me. I'm very proud mummy. Okay, thank you so much. Thank you for joining the Sickle Cell Cause, and we'll see you guys again next time.
Thank you.
Stay strong.
Blessings.
Yes.
Blessings.